like this. And it's interesting that because this has got it's pulled in some of my badges here. Funnily enough, most people tend to use the clean version because they don't particularly look at these settings to change them. Doing a different theme like this could potentially make your chat box stand out quite significantly, so it could be worth considering changing it up and not doing the clean version. But you may already have a design that you just want to overlay the chat itself onto, which is also fine as well. Old school pixels. This is quite cool, chunky, just the thickened words. They're the 5 options that you've got by default. And then you've got things like, do you want to show or not the moderator badges? Do you want to show the subscriber badges or not? Showing turbo badges. Do you want to show Twitch Prime badges in the chat or show bits badges? And these are just your own personal preferences. To be honest, I don't really know why you would want to not show those things, particularly the subscriber and bits. Maybe less so the mod badges, because you're only replicating what's already in chat, and by default the mod badges will show in chat. You can enable better TTV emotes and Francophasy emotes as well by clicking these 2 options. You then can choose the background colour, hex code for the widget. This is preview purposes only and will not show up in your streaming software. You can then set the text colour. You may want to just go with like an off-white colour, which just looks a little bit cooler. But again, you can set this to be any colour that you want. And then change the font size using this scroller here. Now the thing to bear in mind is you're able to resize the source anyway, so if the font size that you see isn't quite perfect, you can resize it. The thing about doing that, when you resize the browser source, it will take the pixels it's got and resize it accordingly. So if you set it too small and then resize it too much, then the font size will just scale and look somewhat pixelated. You want to avoid it looking pixelated, so if you think that you're roughly going to be working with a 40 pixel size on your screen, then try to set it to 40 rather than setting it to 18 as an example and then stretching it out. It's always better to try and be as accurate as you can with the sizes. Hide messages after. So you can say always show messages, and what this does is it just means that the messages will always show and they will never disappear. So as long as people are talking, those messages will show. But you can also set it so that those messages disappear after a certain amount of time. So if I click this off, then I set the amount of time. So let's just show, hopefully we do it in 5 seconds. It shows the messages, show the example of it here. And those messages will eventually disappear, as you can see there. And that's just an option to keep it a little bit cleaner. Me personally, I like it to always show the messages because I've got a dedicated space for that chat, so it doesn't really matter to me whether there's text there or not. There's also a chat delay that you can add as well, so if you want there to be a delay between the chat in your actual Twitch or YouTube chat and then the chat that appears on screen as the overlay in the chat box, you can then set that delay here. For example, just hover over this, so this sets a delay to the chat. I'm not really sure what the benefit of doing that is, to be honest, because if you've not got the same delay in your Twitch chat, then it seems pretty pointless because people can see the chat on the right hand side anyway. However, there are moderation options within Twitch to delay the chat by up to 6 seconds so that your moderators can take away chat that is offensive. So then you've got hide chatters, so hide common chat bots. So I think what this does is just hide any bots that you've got, for instance any bot responses. So you don't want the chat on screen to be spammed with, say, responses to gambling on stream or responses to commands and things like that. You can hide commands starting with an exclamation point as well. It just cleans up the chat that shows on screen. Hide specific users from the chat here. So although you can moderate this in your stream, for example on Twitch or on YouTube, you can also moderate it separately on Streamlabs using the chat box function here. You just add the user there, one name per line, for example, band underscore user, if that's their username, and then, I don't know, band underscore user 2. And then there's also specific band words that you can add here. Final thing here is you can enable some custom CSS, HTML, CSS and JavaScript, and all this does is allow you to add some custom animations or custom design layouts, indenting and stuff like that. Probably for the more advanced streams out there that have got highly customized streams, this just gives you the flexibility to do that. You can also reset codes and click add to add the custom fields. Once I've got those settings there, I can literally copy the widget URL to my clipboard and I get a confirmation of that. Next we're going to add it to the streaming software itself now that we've configured it. You've got two options at this point. You can either add it as a browser source, Or if you're using Streamlabs OBS, you can simply add it as a widget because the widgets are native and very well integrated with Streamlabs OBS. So the online cloud widgets work very well with the software if they're both Streamlabs. Otherwise, you're just going to use URL as a browser source in the software if it's XSplit or if it's StreamElements or whatever. So to do this, we simply click we need to locate sources. We click the plus icon. We can add it as a browser source here. Add source. And then all we're doing is saying I want to set it as a new browser source. You can name the source. New test chat box.